Hi, y'all. It's Bridget Cutshaw with Real Things Living. Today, my guest is Linda Fisk. She is a CEO of LeadHERship Global, an author, speaker, and she loves to support and guide other women to help them. Can you say hi, Linda?
Hi, everyone. And Bridget, thank you so much for allowing me to be on this incredibly powerful platform. I love your podcast and I love the kind of insight that you share with women about resilience. And actually, with all leaders, I think that the lessons that you've been able to highlight on your podcast are applicable to every leader, every person. And I just find it to be incredibly inspirational. So to be on your program is a real treat. Thank you.
Oh, I appreciate it. And before I started recording, I told Linda that we take our own value for granted. And that's kind of why I think working with in a group, working with someone else, you learn so much more rather than I'm guilty in the past trying to do everything by myself. And that's what Linda has done is created a community to help other women and leaders. And first question that popped into my head was what prompted you to create Leadership Global? I'm just curious.
Very much like what you just said, Bridget, that really no one becomes a leader in isolation by themselves. They have to be in community with others to really begin to strengthen their leadership and to be able to sharpen their own authentic leadership style. And I have seen leaders come together to solve some of the most daunting problems that are facing our planet and facing our communities and facing our businesses. And when leaders come together and they're able to share their experiences and they're able to share unbiased, objective feedback and insight, I have seen businesses double in size. I've seen nonprofits get created. I've seen think tanks develop. I've seen entire new divisions of corporations come to fruition. And it's because when you bring together like minded leaders that are really focused on solving some of the biggest, most daunting problems in front of them, the magic happens when they share their leadership, when they share their thoughts and ideas and experiences and expertise together in community.
Right. And we also give each other feedback and you shouldn't take it personally. Right. It's that's what's so great about it, the openness of it, because you might have an idea, but you might have to tweak it, right? And that's really what it's about. And also, you mentioned resilience, and that's what my podcast is about. I originally started it for people who are dealing with health issues. I'm like, it needs to be a little bit more. We're all dealing with something in life, and those who have dealt with any kind of obstacles we learn, those that are successful, we learn how to get around it somehow, or not around it, but overcome it. And we all have different experiences. And I think when we're younger, we learn so much from everything. And it doesn't stop as you age. You could always have a problem. I should say that. But when I was, I had cancer issues. I'm like, it's just, you learn from that and then you focus on what's important. And I think you had mentioned that you believe that women, we have that are traits that are very unique and we're more empathetic. Can you like dive a little bit more into it?
Yeah, I love that. So, of course, as a leader, you are going to face failures and setbacks. You're going to face shortfalls. And I feel like oftentimes people let those setbacks, those failures, those inadequacies, those shortfalls define who they are. But when you think about impactful leadership, it's all about being resilient. Impactful leadership is about making long lasting and very positive, meaningful contributions to organization and community and in the lives of the people around you. And that means being able to be resilient. You've got to combine your mind and your heart to lead and to achieve sustainable goals that build lasting impact. And to do that, you have to genuinely and generously influence people to believe in you, trust you, and to join you in your mission. And that all hinges on your ability to recognize any shortfalls, any missteps, any failures, and get back up and keep on going. And I think that, you know, what might be for some people, the strengths that we take for granted, as you noted, as women, actually can help lead in high stakes situations. They can actually help lead in situations that call for resilience. So I think that, especially as women leaders, we have to begin to recognize and apply those strengths to everyday leadership challenges and recognize how women can shape the not just the corporate environment, but maybe their family system, maybe their community, their place of worship. And so some of the most important qualities I feel like of a good leader, regardless of gender, is those people that establish a unique leadership style based on their values, their character traits, their talent. And it's about serving with your mind and your heart and incorporating an attitude of service to genuinely connect with the people in your life to earn their loyalty. But as I noted, there's a lot of studies out there that suggest that women have been proven to hold a key advantage in many of the soft skills that lead to effective leadership. In fact, a study by the global consulting firm Hay Group found that women outperform men in 11 out of 12 key emotional intelligence competency. In fact, the Hay Group found that women leaders tend to slightly outperform men in most leadership skills that are based on soft skills, empathy, humility, things like that. So often these kinds of soft skills are referred to as emotional intelligence, but really it's any ability pertaining to the way that you approach and handle your relationships with others in your professional life. And women tend to excel in that. And let me just say, empathy is absolutely the foundation. It is the bedrock of those kind of soft skills. The difference in leadership between the genders grows even larger during any kind of crisis because female leaders express more awareness of fears, um, concerns for the well being of their team, confidence in their plan. And all of that helps women really, again, embrace resilience and embrace the tougher aspects of being a leader, which really hinge on being resilient and being empathetic. So things like the ability to network, the ability to collaborate, the ability to communicate, critical thinking, having authentic communication, having a very authentic leadership style, navigating through periods of discomfort, even imposter syndrome. Women tend to do that very, very well.
As you were talking, it made me think it's being a leader is not about having a title, right? It's about building trust and people will follow you. Is that the right word? Or you're gonna guide them someplace. I shouldn't say follow. It just depends on the situation, business, personal, community, or your family. It's just right. We don't a lot of us women in general, we do take our value for granted. And I'm I'm it could be dependent on your environment that you're growing up in, and that's why I think your family is so critical when you're younger, and uh, in retrospect, I am so grateful for my mother, right? We butted heads when I was younger, right? I'm sure I'm the only one, but my mom was a great role model, and she went through some tough stuff, and so I saw her as an example, as a leader, and I'm very fortunate, and she put up with me, but, we all you gotta be a little rebellious sometime too, and I think that's okay. I should rebellious in a you still got some rules to follow a little bit, but that's what I believe in, learning how to overcome stuff. You have to acknowledge the negative stuff, but not focus on it. That's kinda how what I'm taking from what you're sharing, and I
Absolutely.
think more and more women are getting into these, business leadership roles, which I think will help in the long term, and I love the fact that you're doing this to help everybody, and you had mentioned before we got on the call that when you were younger, you're not like a really great speaker, but when you were younger, you had a stutter. So that was beautiful that you overcame that. Can you share a
Yeah.
little?
Well, thank you, Bridget. I really appreciate that. And just to put a bow on, this idea of women in leadership, I think this is my personal belief, but I really believe that women have unique leadership capabilities that actually position them incredibly well to thrive in the rapidly evolving global workplace transformation that we see. And a lot of those strengths women take for granted, like empathy, humility, and self knowledge. And those things are absolutely key to excelling in leadership. And in fact, believe it or not, introverts also overperform in a crisis because they take the time to listen and
Yeah.
really learn from those around them. But you're right, to be an effective leader, I feel like you have to be tested. You have to be tried. And for me, that happened when I was a very young child. I was considered to be clinically shy, unable to even hold eye contact with strangers. Even when my parents urged me to look at someone in the eyes, shake their hand, and say hello, I just didn't do it. And over time, I developed a penchant for whispering my words at a pretty uneven rate of speech. And I began to repeat words with a very pronounced stutter. Social settings and high stress environments made it nearly impossible to speak as I became more and more self conscious. And then the tension in my voice made it more and more difficult to even utter a word. And over time, my frustrations with my attempts to communicate led to kind of a hesitation or a prolonged pause before I started to speak. And by the time I could utter a word, the conversation already moved on. They were already talking about something else. Over time, it was simply easier to remain quiet. By the time I was in high school, I had the nickname Mouse because I was quiet as a mouse. So this hidden habit of stuttering developed as I consciously began to avoid words or sounds or even situations that might involve any kind of struggle. So I hid my problem from most other people because I developed a behavioral pattern and a coping mechanism that kept me vigilant at all times and really avoided any situation where I had to speak. But I will tell you that by the time I was in college, I recognized that I needed to find a way to effectively manage my stuttering in order to have the life that I envisioned for myself. And by then, I knew I wanted to work in advertising and marketing and work with dynamic leaders because after years of observing, listening, and studying people, I felt like I had an innate sense of how people seem to be motivated, what seemed to kind of guide their decisions, what persuaded them. So I felt like I needed to find a way of stepping out and stepping up and claiming my voice. But that is much easier said than done. So although it took 4 years, dozens of public speaking classes, speech therapy, and counseling, I graduated college having competed in several public speaking contests, and actually won 4 of those national competitions.
Wow.
And from that first public speaking course, when I literally fainted in front of a classroom of 25 students, to graduating when I presented to an auditorium of over 500 people, I got to tell you, that was a case study in both grit and grace. And I feel like grit was evident in my resolve and my stamina to reach a seemingly impossible goal based on achieving the life I envisioned for myself. But grace was also needed along the journey to accept my limitations, my incredibly slow progress, and my setback.
I think that's a great example. You took it one step at a time. That helped you a lot, to overcome this. And rather than just trying to some people try to speed things through and you're not gonna learn as much, you need to learn from every step. As you were talking, I think that's it's amazing. I also was thinking that I held myself back because I always try to be a perfectionist. I don't know why, where that came from. Maybe because the people I was around wanted everything to be perfect. I mean, in school, I mean. And, I just learned, and maybe that's why a little rebelliousness came out of me when I was younger. It probably had to do with I'm from that generation where we didn't have, thank God, technology, and I had an older brother who watched me, right? So that probably was that's good and bad. So I learned some rebelliousness, from him, but then I had my mother, she had to deal with us. She ended up going to, she's not from the US. She's from, Europe. She's from France, and so that's something I saw that people, tease my mom about, right? Because she didn't speak proper English. I don't think people realize how they communicate with others to make others I don't think they mean to make them feel bad. You think they're feeling bad about themselves, and that's why they're projecting it on other people, you know what I'm saying? The negativity. I don't know why I'm saying that, but as you're talking, I'm like, my mom had to learn English, and she taught me English, which I think is funny, now. But I would say things backwards sometimes, the adjectives and the nouns, because
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but I
Yeah.
was fun of that, but I was made fun of because my mother was not, didn't know how to make fried chicken, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, we all have to
Well, I gotta tell you, your mom did a beautiful job raising you, and you are an incredible speaker now. So obviously something went well. And I'll tell you, in my opinion, Bridget, in every area of growth, from your education to your career to maybe even athletic training, it's your level of mental toughness and determination that actually predicts your level of achievement. And what your mom went through and what you went through definitely
yeah,
indicate an incredible level of mental toughness, right? And for me, grit is a reliable and accurate indicator of future success, maybe more so than any other characteristic and trait, maybe more so than even emotional intelligence or IQ. It's having grit that, in my mind, is really important because it becomes the driver of achievement and success, well beyond what skill and knowledge can provide you.
right.
So what you and your mom experience is that kind of setback or that resistance or, that sort of artificial limitation that was placed upon you when you're dedicated to achieving a long-term goal, settling in the United States, acclimating to our culture, raising a family here, then I feel like if you're steadfast in your pursuit and you're undeterred by the sacrifices required, well, that is mental toughness. That is grit. And
Right.
that's the predictor of how well you're going to do in life.
And she was I'm just, her my stepfather is one that influenced her to finish to get her master's and because she is that smart, but she didn't feel that way. And it's just so great the people even the men, you gotta have yourself surrounded by the right men too, not just the other women. And that was really helpful to have someone like that in our life. And I just think, again, it's amazing. So did you have siblings growing up, Linda? It just kind of made me go
I
back.
did. I had one younger brother who is absolutely one of my very best friends. He and I are polar opposites, but I love him more than life itself. He's precious to me. He is absolutely treasured, and he had a completely different set of talents and abilities and expertise and aptitudes and characteristics than I did, which made him to me endlessly fascinating. Right? He was 3 years younger than I am, but I was just fascinated by him because he was so different than I was. And I think that we all have the talent, the ability, the expertise to achieve greatness. But my brother's path was very different from mine. And I would say without determination, resilience, and perseverance, success for both of us would have been really elusive. But, I had my own challenges. He had his. So we followed very different paths. But the good news is that I think our level of grit, our level of mental toughness developed over time through our, growing up period in the house that we grew up in. And it led him to extraordinary success in his own way, which was very, very different from mine. And how we define success is also very different.
That's true. Again, it goes back to your family. To me, a lot of it's the foundation is your family that who you're surrounded with when you're younger, because those memories stick with you, your lessons stick with you, and I just again very fortunate to have some great coaches and teachers, and I appreciate my brother now, even though he's older than me. So you can imagine. I joke now, it was torture, but I had he was, very creative too, but he won't take that route, right? He's really smart, like in math, right? But then he's also was very creative. He only liked to focus. I think it's because of the environment we grew up in. He's a guy, he can't be creative, right?
Yeah.
It's so he was my babysitter a lot. Maybe that's why I learned toughness from him,
Right.
and I really did, and not just my mom.
And
And
that's it. Toughness can be learned. The good news is that grit or mental toughness can
right,
be taught and can be developed over time with practice. And in our family, I would say that our parents were really terrific at helping us adopt more of a growth mindset, developing the ability to persevere, and to be able to recognize that when you start any kind of task, you're not going to be great at it. But you have to have the tenacity to pursue a goal, knowing that you have the ability to improve over time. When you begin any task, you're a beginner. So you're not going to be a master over anything that you begin. But if you allow for the kind of stamina needed to achieve long term success and needed to achieve long term goals, then you can improve, you can grow, you can get better and better and better. And I think the key is to recognize that your natural talents, your intelligence, your giftedness is your potential. But with the application of persistent practice, you can actually achieve higher and higher levels of success. And if there was one incredible lesson that our parents taught us, it was that have a growth mindset and recognize that your ability to improve over time is just a matter of practice.
it's true, and as you were talking, it made me think of my dad that raised me. He said, "You're a girl, you can do anything." So I'm so glad he put that into my mind because growing up I was born in the '60s, and in this girls were, I don't know, people have always been a little negative about girls for some reason. It's getting better now. You're helping them a lot, but I'm so glad. That's why I think having the right men around you, giving you the right support, it was really helpful to me, and I was just blessed. And I just think having your purpose in life is knowing that, and you're never too old to learn and change, in my opinion, right? That's what I'm always in a growth mindset. I don't remember them telling me that, but I think they're always pushing me to explore. So that's a way of using the word explore. Is that the right word?
No, that's absolutely right on, Bridget. And I love that. And look at the incredible success that you have forged for yourself and for your family. Look at all the incredible challenges that you've overcome, including, two different forms of cancer. For goodness sakes.
Right.
And
And yeah, didn't know. Yeah, again, it's an example of listening to your body. Some people don't believe in that, but I do. And I think being curious is important in life. Set the right, and that helps you grow, being curious. And I think my curiosity is what discovered all this crazy stuff going on with me. If I had ignored it, I might not be having this conversation. You just don't know. And I think being curious is critical. It helps you be more open minded. I think I always spoke up. I don't know about you, Linda. You were more quieter than me. I was not a quiet, but I just remember, just certain things the teachers would say to me, and I would say, "Well, why can't I do this?" And I wasn't being rude, but I don't know why I would do that. I think maybe it was probably I had a mix of male and female teachers, right? I don't remember who was specific, but I was always having to stand up for myself because I was little, right? I really was little, and so that's probably why I learned to my size isn't going to stop me. And I mean,
and I think a value for you that you set for yourself was curiosity,
yeah,
questioning authority, like
I
in a
did.
respectful way, like sort of saying why, right? Which is a form of curiosity. Why? You probably had a value of also being just, being ethical and just, and wanting to be fair to yourself and others. You wanted an equitable playing field for even as a little girl. Why is it that Joey can do this, but Jane can't? So I think that some of this is also the values that you set for yourself resiliency, curiosity, equity, fairness, and resiliency. And I think if you embrace the idea that a setback, a pitfall, or any form of adversity are part of the journey of growth, then you can maintain that effort for a long time, cultivating a sense of resiliency. And I think is resiliency is one of the most important values that you can choose to help um, steward your life, to
Yeah,
help, you can embrace that to help you set the value that you want to have in your life for others.
that's so true. And it's just some great takeaways just having this conversation with you. And I just love what you're doing. I think this is helpful for me. I feel like I'm having a coaching conversation. But that's the whole purpose of this podcast is we all, we're sharing stories and we learn
Yeah.
so much. Just pausing and being curious. And you your example was taking one step at a time and not speeding through it. Then you'll find your way. And this is so cool. I'm glad we connected,
Me
Linda.
too, Bridget. And I would say, one thing that I have learned in our relationship is that, as we just talked about, adopting resiliency as a value allows you to get back up,
Right.
create corrections in your life, and push forward. And asking why along the way, right? That sense of resiliency allows you to ask questions, be curious, get back up, course correct, and push forward. And I think that you exemplify those things.
Thank you.
And I'm really inspired by that. So thank you for developing this platform, creating this podcast, and also living out this entire sort of exploration of resiliency.
Yeah, that's true. As you're talking, it made me think I had a conversation with the guy the other day, and he said, I could tell the way you talk that you can pick up on BS, you don't take BS. I said, yeah. I do.
Yeah.
So I listen and every situation is different. You got to respond to each situation differently. So there's not one way for everybody.
Yeah.
And this has been awesome. Can you tell everybody, the listeners, where they can learn more about you, Linda?
Absolutely. Thank you so much. I would love to connect with anyone who's interested in being part of a global community of extraordinary women in leadership, all exploring their own unique definitions of success. And if you're interested in learning more about that, you can reach me through email, Linda at leadhershipglobal.com. So leadhershipglobal.com. You can find me on LinkedIn, Linda Fisk, or leadhershipglobal.com. And of course, you're welcome to drop me a note on our website, leadhershipglobal.com. So thank you so much, Bridget.
You're welcome. And for those that are listening, I'll have the links included in the description. And this is awesome. You're very inspiring, and you elevated me. So I appreciate it, Linda, for your time.
Thank you so much, Bridget.
Thanks for listening, everybody.